Hey, so I'm recording this on my phone, so I hope the audio won't be too quiet. And I actually already was recording this, and I had about 15 minutes made, and suddenly my phone decided to just like shut off the recording process. Like it just kind of stopped. So I hope that I can um, get in touch with what I was saying earlier and um, not miss anything that I said in the previous video that was particularly good, let's say. So I want to talk about my Trifix and how that can show up in a person and how the triple doubting of my Trifix, which is 694, can manifest, how that can show up. So 694 is the triple doubting Trifix because the 6 tends to doubt both themselves and other people, the outside world. There's like a constant questioning, a constant asking questions, and seeing the other side of what is being said constantly, constant focus on that. And the 9 tends to kind of sit on the fence and see all sides and not being able to kind of get in touch with that visceral instinct of like what feels right in the situation in terms of like making a decision, like what decision should be made here. So it kind of becomes this fluid thing of like I am connected to everything, or like everything is one, all is one, everything will go as it goes, but not really showing up and making a firm decision. And then the 4 is kind of self-doubting. It's, I would say, even in a way it's like self-critical. So it is the part of me, for example, that doesn't think I'm good enough for certain things, and so it doubts. There's a self-doubt about, I can write a whole list of ways that I'm not the right person for a certain project or a certain thing, because it's there's so much self consciousness and self doubt going on. And so combining 694 is difficult in the sense that it is triple doubting. So all three types are have like an stance or an orientation, I don't know what you call it really, of doubting. So there's both of them, all three of them have a tendency towards this doubting. And 4 is also a frustration type, it's called. So frustration type. So there's like a frustration that the 4 clings onto and finds it difficult to like let go of that. And it's a part of me that I find it hard to accept in a way, because it's hard to accept that like I make my own frustrations sometimes, and I hold on to my own frustrations sometimes. And so that can actually lead to, those things can all lead to like being unable and frozen almost when it comes to making a decision. So the 6 will see all sides, or like two different opposing sides, and like will kind of relate to both sides. And so it's hard to make a firm decision then when I want this thing, but I also want this thing on the other side, which is the opposite thing. And the 9 kind of sees all sides and kind of just is um it's I definitely sense the 9ishness in myself. I thought I was a core 9 for a little while, um, but it's difficult for me to describe this. It's like this kind of watery thing of like, instead of making a firm decision, I'm just going to kind of be at one with everything. And so in the sense I actually lose a sense of myself, a strong sense of myself, because the 9 can have a hard time feeling like that there's a person here, there's a person here that needs to be looked after, a person inside of me, so to speak, which is, it is, you could shorten that and say it's sense of self. So the 9 has a hard time having a sense of self, and the 4 is just like can write a long list of ways that I can like explain in like intricate ways of like how I'm not good enough for a certain job or a certain thing. And it's like I'm clinging on to, on some level, this frustration of like I'm not good enough for this job, let's say, and so I'm not going to apply for it. And the 6 will overthink it and see like what the job requirements are, for example, and what it all entails, and ways that I'm not good enough will come from the 4 then. So the 6 can see all the, well, maybe this will happen or maybe that will happen, or you know it's this constant overthinking, and the 9 will sit on the fence. And so it's a very difficult trifix, in terms of making decision. And I've actually read it online that like this is, some people say that it's the worst trifix, but I wouldn't put it like that, because I think we all have our struggles, and I think maybe this trifix is just noticeable in the world in some sense, in that the person is so sort of frozen in terms of making decisions at times, not all the time but a lot of times, and it's also very sensitive, and like it's more like a philosophical, poetic sort of trifix. And it doesn't have the 8, it doesn't have the 3, so it's more difficult to be firm about what you want and make a decision and get ahead in some like professional way, for example. But yeah, so this trifix, I think triple doubting, it does show up in me, for example, because like I said, I will see different sides, and I will see how I'm not good enough for something, and then that will kind of elevate the overthinking, if that makes any sense. So that will actually fuel the overthinking about like looking at, picking out things that make this job, for example, too difficult for me or something like that. And the 9 will just kind of almost resign in a way. The 9 can resign, can check out of making decision, and will hope instead that things will work out as they should, and the universe will align for me for the way that it should. And there is something to that, but I think in some sense, the Enneagram shows us where we get stuck, and the ways in which we limit ourselves, sometimes without noticing. So I think this kind of way of thinking will limit me eventually in a lot of situations. Like I may think that the world has it sorted for me, or like everything is going around the way it should, but for my own personal progression, what the 9 should, or someone with a 9 in their trifix should do, is like get in touch with that instinct, and like that person that actually is within, or that you are, and like what do you want. And so it is very difficult, and then the 9 and people with 9 in trifix, they can't just assume that like the world is, things will align and things will kind of fall into place. But there are certain times when the negative side of that will take over, in that the person is not even making a decision, for example, and is not progressing, because this trifix can have a hard time progressing and sort of making a decision in a concrete way. And I've actually forgotten a lot of the things that I was talking about in the previous video that I lost, because I completely lost that video. I didn't even save. So I think I touched on some other things in that video, but I just wanted to do a little discussion about this triple doubting trifix of 694, because like every number in that trifix is oriented towards like questioning or like doubting in some way. So 6 kind of doubts the self and the other and the world, and 9 is not sticking to a decision, or not seeing all points of view, and so hard to make your own decision, and doubting because you're seeing, well, actually that is true as well, so why do I have to stick with this thing? Maybe that is true as well, and this is true, but and then the 4 is immensely self-doubting, and is aware of the ways, supposedly, that they supposedly aren't good enough for a certain thing. And they're holding on to that frustration of not being good enough. There is like almost like an addiction in the 4, in some sense, to frustration in a way. and I've seen this being talked about, but it's hard to accept about yourself that maybe in some sense being frustrated or being thinking of myself as not being good enough for certain things is actually something that is keeping me in my comfort zone. So the four or people with four and Trifix can come out in that kind of a way as well. So like maybe, and then six as well is about comfort zone. So and safety and security. So it's like there's a part of me that is um, just trying to keep myself safe instead of making a decision and going forward. In some sense, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I've forgotten a lot of the things that I talked about in the previous video, but if I think of anything else, I'll make another video. So if you have this Trifix, I'd love to hear your thoughts about um, how you experience it and how does the triple doubting label, so to speak, show up in you in particular. Like there's this constant, and I don't want to make it sound worse than it is. It's just like my reality. So it's not like it's something that I'm just kind of used to. But like there is this constant questioning and this constant doubting, of like, well, maybe that side is true as well. Maybe this side is true. But where am I in the middle of it? Who am I in the middle of it? And what is my point of view and what is my decision that I'm going to make? Because I see these different sides while doubting myself and my own ability to be good enough at things at the same time. So that's the four side. So 6 and 9 are kind of seeing different sides, and 4 is doubting my own self and my own like self-worth, in that, if that makes any sense. So yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. So thanks for watching, and if you want to hear more about the Enneagram or other thoughts I have, so please subscribe if you want to hear more of that, and leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Thank you.